Joining us today. My name is Sarah Landrum, and I am the Community Financial Educator here at DCCU, and I'm really excited about the information that we'll be bringing you for today's webinar. Summer is actually also known as the official car buying season, and while there is tons of information on the internet and different resources that consumers can check out to learn more about buying a vehicle, most consumers still buy vehicles within a couple of days when making the decision. So today we are going to be talking about the steps that you need to take before you ever walk into the dealership so you can make the best decision for yourself. During today's webinar, the 10 steps to buying a car, we are going to talk about how to determine the amount you can afford, whether you should sell or trade your current vehicle, whether you should lease or buy, the importance of getting pre-approved, and how to get the most out of your test drive, as well as a lot more to help you make that best decision. And before we actually get into the information today, I thought that we would start off with a poll question. And the poll question is, what is the most popular vehicle color? White, silver, black, or red? And I'll give you a few seconds to make your choice. And if you said silver, you are correct. According to the color marketing manager at DuPont Automotive, which is a major paint supplier, silver is the most popular color for all vehicles. And coming in second is white, and then black is the third most popular color. So before you even decide that you are going to buy a new vehicle and before you decide to go to that dealership, one of the most important things, and I feel like it's probably the first step in determining whether or not you want to buy a new vehicle, whether it's a brand new or whether it's just upgrading to a newer model, you need to determine why you're going to buy a new vehicle. So we know consumers buy for different reasons, but when it comes to either buying a new vehicle or upgrading, most consumers are going to buy based on how reliable their car is now. So the number one reason that people decide to buy a new vehicle is their car may have high mileage. Maybe it's beyond repair. Maybe that vehicle that used to get you from point A to point B and back is no longer reliable, and you have found that you're putting in a whole lot of money to repair your vehicle. Also, too, people will buy, maybe there's going to be an addition to the family. Maybe you're going to have a baby and you need extra room. Maybe you're going to get married, and that marriage comes more children. Also, too, people will replace or buy a new vehicle when there's a job change. Sometimes people get a promotion and they want to upgrade due to image. So they will decide to buy a new vehicle for that reason. Sometimes people can't pass up the good rates and the good deals. And also, too, some people are very faithful to certain brands of vehicles, and we know that most companies will upgrade a body style every 3 to 5 years, so it may be that they like the new body and they want to make a change for that reason. So now you've decided why you're going to buy a new vehicle. Why do you need one? The first thing that you need to do after that would be to limit your choices. And we know there are hundreds of makes and models available to consumers. So how do you limit your choices? First, you need to determine your everyday life. What kinds of space do you need in the vehicle? Are you the only one who occupies the vehicle? Or do you have small children or maybe other family members that will need adequate space? Would it make sense for you to buy a car that only seats 2 when you have 3 small children? Probably not. So look at what you do on a day-to-day basis and determine what vehicle choice is best for you. And then also, too, think about the options. And here's a list of things to consider when purchasing a new vehicle. The number of seats. Again, how many people are going to be driving in your vehicle. Maybe you do have a large family. Maybe you carpool. Maybe you take friends out a lot. Also think about the size of the vehicle, the color, the style, and of course comfort. You don't want to buy a vehicle that's not comfortable for you, because if you do and you plan on keeping that vehicle for several years and you find out it's not quite as comfortable as you thought it was going to be, then you may end up having to trade very early or upgrade, and that could cost you money in the end. And then also another way to limit your choices is to use what we call the side-by-side comparison approach. Take your narrowed list, and what I usually recommend is come up with 4 different vehicles that you may be interested in. And then take that narrowed list to compare the features, which are standard or optional on all vehicles. And there are tools, and I'm going to show you actually one of them on how to do the side-to-side comparisons, but there are tools out there from reputable companies who do a lot of car research, and this one particular, the very first one is the NADA guide. And let's just go out to the site, and I want to show you what that looks like. Okay, so you'll see that you get 4 different vehicles that you can select and that you can compare. And the first information that's going to ask you is what year, because you can compare new vehicles as well as you can compare older vehicles or used vehicles. So you'll just choose your year and what the make is. We'll just say this one, and what type of model it is, and then what type of four-door, and then you can keep going. We don't have an image here available, but it will give you, as you go down, it's going to give you the information on the vehicle. And then you'll just go over, and then you'll do the same thing for each one that you're interested in. And then that way you can compare the different options and see which one is the best vehicle for you. A couple of years ago, I bought a vehicle, and I just assumed in newer vehicles that cruise control was just a standard option, and we never even looked at that as whether it was optional. I just thought it was on all vehicles. So I learned the hard way that I did not have cruise control on that vehicle. It didn't come with it. And it didn't really matter because I was still driving a lot in the city. But what happened was about 6 months later, I changed jobs here at the credit union, and I started traveling a lot more, and I was on the interstate a whole lot. And cruise control would have come in really handy for me, so I could, of course, watch my speed. So what I found with this particular vehicle was I had to always make sure I was going the right speed, so of course, wouldn't get pulled over and get a speeding ticket. And it was just harder for me to concentrate because I didn't have that cruise to be able to set and know the speed limit that was going. So make sure that you do look at those options, and if that's something that you need or other options, be sure that you do that because you want to be pleased with the vehicle that you're actually buying. And then we always say, do your research on the vehicle. For most people, safety is the most important criteria when buying a car. While it is still the person's responsibility to wear seat belts, the vehicle should have features like, for example, airbags, braking system, head protection devices, and so on. And in order for you to get the best safety rating for this vehicle that you're looking at, you can check the National Highway Administration's Government 5-Star Safety Rating. And I will give you, at the very end of the webinar, I will give you the website that you can go to in order to check on safety of the vehicles that you may be interested in. And then also quality. In order for you to know the quality rating and performance of a vehicle, you can visit J.D. Power circle ratings for things going right and things going wrong. That way you know the vehicle that you're buying is of good quality, and you don't have to worry about whether something's going to fall apart 6 months after you buy it or 2 years after you buy it. So you can get a quality rating on that. And then also, to read what experts have to say about vehicle ratings, and read as much as you can. The more you learn, you'll be educated about a certain vehicle before you ever buy one. And then Kelley Blue Book is a great resource, and Edmunds as well. And I'll supply you with those particular websites again at the end. And they're great resources to go by when reading reviews, because these people are the car experts, and that's what they study, and they'll be able to give you expert opinions. And then I'm also a firm believer in getting recommendations from family and friends. If you're interested in a certain vehicle and you know that you know someone that drives one, ask their opinion. This is a good way to learn vital information you may not be able to get anywhere else. They're not being paid to endorse a certain vehicle, so more than likely they're going to tell you the truth. And if they tell you something good or bad, listen to what they have to say, and then determine if this is something that is significant to you. If it is, then take that into consideration. It's better to know before you purchase a vehicle than it is after you've made that commitment. And then we have another poll question. And what is the average price of a new car? Is it $25,000, $22,000, $33,500, or $30,000? And I'll give you a few seconds to make your choice. And if you said C, $33,500, you are correct. USA reported in May the estimate average transaction price of a new truck or car sold in the U.S. in April of 2015 was $33,560. And that's actually about 2.6% higher than in that month a year ago. And this was data research that did come from the auto research of Kelley Blue Book. Okay, so the next step is to determine what you can afford. And this is probably one of the most important things of all when you're determining whether to buy a new car or, again, you're just upgrading to a different model. The first thing is to consider a down payment. How much money can you pay up front in cash or even with a trade-in, or maybe even both? Maybe you've saved some money and you're able to get some money on a trade-in. A down payment doesn't have to be all in cash if you own your car and you trade it or you sell it. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes too. All of this can be used as a down payment. And then the next thing that you want to consider is a monthly payment if you plan to finance or if you're going to lease the vehicle. Know what that maximum monthly payment is that you can afford and stick to that amount and don't go over it. When you know what that amount is, that's before you ever walk into a dealership. That's before you really ever set eyes on a certain vehicle. Know exactly what you can afford and make sure you make a commitment to yourself. I'm going to stick to this monthly payment. I'm not going to pay $5 more. I'm not going to pay $20 more. This is how much I can afford, and this is how much I'm going to pay. And even maybe another goal to think about is to pay even less than what you know you can afford. And then also, too, insurance. This is, I think, one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're looking at buying a new car is insurance rates. They don't check with their insurance company, and maybe you buy a new vehicle, you put insurance on it, and you find out that your insurance rates go sky high. And now what you thought you could afford because the insurance goes up, you may not be able to. And there is no clause in a car contract that says you can bring it back if your insurance rates go up. And there was this particular woman who had decided to upgrade to an SUV vehicle, and she also had a teenage son. And not even thinking about what the insurance rates would be, she went ahead, she purchased the vehicle, and then she took the insurance out, of course, with her insurance company. And if you take an SUV and you add a teenage son to that, it made her insurance rates go way up. And she found out, I can't return the vehicle. And it made it hard for her monthly budget because she was having to pay out a lot more. So just keep that in mind. And then also, too, if you're buying a used vehicle and you know that it has a certain number of miles on it, check out what type of maintenance that you may have to do on the vehicle based on that mileage, because you may find out that you're going to have to put more money into that maintenance, and that could, of course, cost you more money than what you thought you were going to have to if you were upgrading your vehicle. And then also, too, the best way to determine what that monthly payment is to use your debt-to-income ratio. And a debt-to-income ratio is basically the percentage of your monthly gross income that goes towards paying your debt. And let's look at the example I have here to help you understand it a little bit better. Now, we're going to talk about being pre-approved. And this is something that your financial institution can figure for you. But you can do this at home before you ever step foot in a financial institution, and you know how much you can afford. So your debt-to-income ratio, and this is how you figure it. Let's say your gross income for a year is $75,000. When you apply for any type of loan, your lender likes to see your debt-to-income ratio at 36% or lower. So that's that number that they like to see, because they know it's saying that you're not overextended in debt. So they like to look at that 36% or lower. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your gross annual income, and you're going to divide it by 36%. And that gives you an amount of $27,000. So based on the debt, which would be a mortgage payment, credit cards, a car loan, any type of loan obligation that you have, based on this amount, you should be paying no more than $27,000 a year. And then let's say before you purchase a vehicle, right now you're paying out $20,000 a year, with your mortgage and credit cards and different things like that. Well, you can afford, based on what the lender says, $27,000. So you're paying $20,000 now. You're going to subtract what you can actually pay, and that gives you about $7,000 a year that you could make on car payments. And if you divide that by 12, your monthly payment should be no more than $583. And then the next thing that we are going to talk about is being pre-approved. It's best for you to be pre-approved for a loan at your local financial institution before you ever walk into a dealership. Your lender will view your credit and your current debt situation. And because your lender will tell you what you can afford and what your interest will be, this will help you stick to your budget and give you a peace of mind. And just remember, too, because you're out car shopping at some point, you may find a better deal. Maybe your financial institution isn't the best deal. You're not obligated to take that loan. You've been pre-approved. You haven't signed the paperwork yet. You're just going out with the buying power to know how much you can afford. So in the end, if you find a better deal out there car shopping, you don't have to take this loan. You're not obligated to. And then also, too, as being pre-approved, you can shop like a cash buyer. You do not have to tell the lender that you've, the car dealership. You do not have to tell them that you've been pre-approved. That's really none of their business. So it's like a pre-approval, like buying with cash. And it also gives you better negotiation power, and it gives you better leeway of being able to say yes or no, and know exactly what you can afford, and you're going to stick to that payment so you can negotiate with your salesman. And then also, too, one thing to keep in mind, you already know what you've been pre-approved for, and you know what you can afford monthly. But don't ignore the dealer's offers. Again, you don't have to tell them you've been pre-approved and this is my interest rate and this is how much I can afford. Listen to what they say, because there are times that there's different types of bonuses, or sometimes there's different types of deals that come along with a vehicle that you're buying, and you may get a better offer with the dealership. You may find that you get like 0% financing because you have a great credit score. So you may, in the end, get a better deal with the dealership. So don't ignore them. Listen to what they have to say. But knowing that you've been pre-approved, you don't have to worry about whether you're going to get a loan or not. You already know that you can. And then the next thing we're going to talk about, the next step is after you know what you've been pre-approved for, is it better for you to lease, or is it better for you to buy a vehicle and finance it and eventually own it? And we're going to look at the reasons that someone may want to lease their vehicle. And one reason is there's a lot of people that just want a new car every 2 to 3 years. Some people like to keep a vehicle forever, or as long as they possibly can. But some people just want to get a new car every 2 to 3 years. If that's you, leasing may be a better option for you. Maybe you want to get that nice sporty or luxury car, but you can't afford it because it may cost too much for you to purchase it. Leasing may be an option for you. Maybe if you want a lower monthly payment. Most of the time when you lease a vehicle, your monthly payment is going to be lower. And then, too, with leasing, you're not usually asked to put down a large down payment on the vehicle. And then also buying, if you want to keep your vehicle a long time. Maybe you want to keep it for as long as you possibly can. I had a goal when I bought my last vehicle that I wanted it to give me 300,000 miles. We didn't quite make it, but I was able to keep it for about 8 years, and it was nice not having a car payment for a period of time. But some people want to get a car and they just want to keep it forever. If you put maybe a lot of miles on your vehicle every year, because that's one of the things when you lease a vehicle that you're limited to. Usually with a lease, you're limited to about 12,000, 13,000 miles a year. It depends on what your lease says. And if you go over that mileage, you could have to pay fees. So if maybe you're someone who drives a lot for your job, or maybe you go on a lot of vacations and family trips. So if you put a lot of miles on your vehicle every year, you may want to purchase it. And then if you want to build equity in your vehicle, because if you buy a vehicle and you finance it, once you pay it off, it belongs to you. It has somewhat of a value, and then you have equity in it if you want to sell it, or if you want to maybe even, sometimes I've seen people who need a personal loan and they can put their car up as collateral. So you can build equity in your vehicle if you buy it. And then also, too, maybe you want to accessorize. Maybe you want to put new wheels, or maybe you want to upgrade your sound system, or just do something different to the vehicle. You want to add things to it to make it look stylish. You can't do that if you lease a vehicle. So that's something that you want to do once you get your vehicle. Buying may also be a better option for you. And then after you have determined whether you are going to lease or buy, the next thing that you want to determine is, should you sell your current vehicle? And what are some of the pros and cons to selling your vehicle? Well, of course, if you sell the vehicle that you have now, you may get more money for it. And also, too, it may allow you to put down a larger down payment. Also, too, you don't have to worry about a no return or policy or warranty, because if somebody buys a vehicle from you, you can't guarantee them, because it's just a person-to-person transaction that if something goes wrong, you're going to have to replace it, so you don't have to worry about that. Also, too, the cons of selling your vehicle would be the cost of maybe detailing it or repairing it. Maybe your car's not in the best condition, and before you sell it, you're going to have to put some work into it. And that may cost you more money in the end as if you traded it into the dealership. So you kind of have to weigh that cost out. Also, too, when you sell a vehicle, it takes a lot of your time. You're going to have people calling you. They're going to want to try it out. They may call you, all hours of the night, and you have to, leave, go out, meet them, or whatever. So it is a lot of time that you have to put into selling a vehicle, and it could take you some time to sell a vehicle. You may not sell it within the first week that you put that for sale sign on it. It may take months, and that slows down the car buying process for you. And also, too, anytime you sell something, you could run into scams. Somebody may come to you with maybe a cashier's check that's fake, or they write you a bad personal check, or something like that. So it does set you up for scams that can happen too. But if you do decide to sell your vehicle, these are some of the things that you want to consider. When you're trying to sell your vehicle, you're more than likely will get a lot of calls from potential buyers. It's important to have the vehicle presentable at all times. That means keep trash out of the interior, and the exterior should be as clean as possible. First impression can sometimes be the most important, and if you don't take care of the car's appearance, this could be, a reflection to someone on how you took care of the car's maintenance and upkeep. So be sure that you keep it presentable at all times. And then also, too, if there's something wrong with the vehicle, be honest. Don't lie to somebody. Tell them if you know something's wrong. A lot of times you have people that are mechanics that are looking for vehicles that they may need to make repairs to because they can do it very cost-effective because they know how to fix it, and they wouldn't have to pay somebody else to fix it. So just be honest. Also be patient. As I said before, it can take a long time sometimes to sell a vehicle, so just be patient. Allow prospect buyers to inspect the vehicle. Don't get offended. Let them take it out. Let them, if they have a mechanic that they work with and they just want them to look at it, or maybe they want it to go through an inspection, it's better to find out then if something's wrong with it, and that could be also for the buyer. You definitely want to know if something's wrong with the vehicle before you buy it. And then also, too, allow some room for negotiating. Always set the asking price a few $100s higher than you actually want for the vehicle. This allows room for negotiating. If you put it right exactly where you need it, then you don't have any leeway to work with someone else. And then, should you trade your current vehicle? What are the pros and what are the cons of trading a vehicle? Well, of course, we know it's easy. The day that you decide that you're going to buy a vehicle, you pull your vehicle onto the lot, and you do some paperwork, and then the car salesman takes it off your hands, and you drive away with a new vehicle. So it's pretty easy. It's also quick. You don't have that time frame of trying to sell the vehicle like we talked about before. Saves you time. Also can prevent scams from happening to you. What are the cons? And number one would be less money. If you could sell your vehicle straight out, a lot of times you do make more money. So you could end up having less of a trade-in because you've allowed the dealership to give you what they allow for versus trying to sell it and get more money. And there's more time spent negotiating the price because we love the vehicles that we have driven for years. They have been faithful to us. We look at them as more of a value than what an actual dealership looks at. So a lot of times when you're trying to trade that vehicle in, you spend a lot of time negotiating the price when in the end you're probably not going to get the price that you want for a trade-in. And then what are some of the things to consider? And you don't have to detail your car if you trade it in. The dealer really does not care. They don't care if it's clean or if it's not. Don't make repairs if you trade. The dealership can usually make those repairs for minimal cost. So don't worry about going out and putting a lot of money into it, because we talked about a trade-in. If you put money into it, repairing it, and then you trade it in and you don't get as much as you could selling it straight out, then again, you lose money. So don't make the repairs if you trade. And of course, check trade-in values before going to the dealership. And you can use the Kelley Blue Book or the NADA, which is the National Automobile Dealers Association, to learn the trade-in value before you go to the dealership. Both of these are good resources to use, but sometimes both of these books differ. For the most part, Kelley Blue Book uses a standard set of criteria to calculate the value. And what Kelley Blue Book looks at is the condition, the popularity, the warranty, local market conditions, and then NADA uses kind of different things to calculate the value. It would be the wholesale price, the local market demand, and the real-time retail market prices. And just keep in mind that the NADA usually calculates a value that's a little bit higher than Kelley Blue Book. And this is the reason that NADA assumes that the vehicle to be in relatively good condition. The truth is, one of the things that you want to do when you're trying to figure out what your trade-in value is use both of the books' values. If you can use both of them side by side, they give you a better value, so you can negotiate when you do try to trade in your vehicle. So use both of them as a resource and not just one or the other, because there are variances based on these two different books. And then we have really talked about everything that you need to do before you walk into a dealership. So now we have arrived at the place where we want to talk about the test drive. You are now at the dealership. You decided on maybe a couple of different models. Maybe you've narrowed it down to one, and you know exactly what vehicle you're going to buy. So how do you get the most out of your test drive? And the most important thing that you can do is to take the regular riders with you, and that would mean your family, maybe even if you ride around with friends a lot, or even your coworkers if you guys carpool. But anybody that regularly rides in your vehicle, have them sit in every seat to be sure they fit. It's nothing worse than to find like maybe an extra tall person that may not fit in the back seat where they usually ride. And then also to take the car for an extended test drive. If you drive up an incline to work, it may be your best interest to take the car for that particular ride to see how well it performs. You may find out that it doesn't have a lot of power going up that hill, and you want to be satisfied. You want to know for sure this is the vehicle you're going to have for the period of time that you want to drive it. If you're a music lover, take your CDs with you to test the sound system to be sure you're satisfied with it. And then also to drive the car home if possible to see if it fits in your garage or even your driveway. It would be a shame if you purchase a vehicle that doesn't fit in your garage, and of course once you buy it, you can't take it back. It's yours, and you have to figure out how to work around those obstacles that could have been prevented if you had driven the car home. So make sure when you're test driving that you check everything out possible that you can, so you know this is the car that you want. A couple of years ago when I was looking for a new car, I came across a little two-seater that I fell in love with, and I told my husband, I want this. I no longer had anybody riding in the vehicle with me. My daughter had her driver's license. She'd actually moved away from home, so she wasn't riding with me anymore. And I loved this vehicle, and I just had my mind set on it. And my husband, he wasn't very happy about it, but he was going to let me get it if I really, really wanted it. And when I test drove it, I found out there was a big blind spot in the vehicle. and I do a lot of driving on the interstates for my job, and just different things like that. And I am someone who always faithfully looks over my shoulder when I change lanes, and I realized in driving this car that I couldn't do that. I couldn't look over my shoulder and see what I wanted to see in order to change lanes. So I was so happy that I had test drove this car and found out that it wasn't going to work for me, because that changed my mind. It made me kind of fearful of the vehicle because I didn't quite feel safe in it. So your test drive can tell you a whole lot. You can look at a car on a lot and be in love with it, and once you sit in it, you know it's not for you. And then the last thing that I wanted to say is never buy a car you haven't test driven. A lot of times people see cars on internet sites and different things like that, and you can buy cars on the internet, but and they can be delivered to your dealership. But be sure if you do that, you test drive it, and not just assume, I love this car, I love what it looks like, because it may not be the car for you. And then the final step that we want to say today is to enjoy the ride. The most important thing that you can do with your new vehicle, whether it's just an upgrade or whether it's a brand new vehicle, is to enjoy it. More than likely, you are going to pay a lot of money for it, so no matter whether your road trip is commuting to work every day, or taking the kids to the library, taking the family on a vacation, or maybe just taking a quick trip to the store, don't forget to enjoy the ride. And we are going to now open it up for questions. Oh, and before we do that, I'm sorry, I forgot about this page here. This is a resource page, and some of those car experts, those companies, I have supplied you with their websites that you can go to and just check out. And they're different resources. They are the car experts. That's what they study, and they can give you a lot more information than what I have provided for you today. So thank you for joining us, and we are going to open it up for questions now. And I think you have a box that you can type your questions in, and we will go to questions now. And while we're waiting to see if we have any questions come in, I do want to let you know that closer to the end of the month, we will be offering a webinar on how to protect your credit score. It's going to be the last in the series of the Smart Credit Check campaign that we've been doing over the last couple of months. So if that is something that is of interest to you, you can join us, and we'd love to have you there. It's on our website. So if you want to go to myDCCU.com and check that out, you can register today, and we hope to have you there. And I don't see any questions. So again, thank you for joining us, and hope you have a great rest of the day. And if you're getting ready to buy a car, like I said, enjoy the ride. Goodbye, everyone.